Thanks for tuning in to Women Who Open Doors, a podcast that amplifies the voices of incredible women business leaders who are making a difference. I'm your host, Julie Cossack-Collins, owner and coach at Not Magic. Join us as we explore what's possible when we empower one another to dream big, live boldly, and pursue our personal and professional goals. Get ready to be inspired because together we're building a community that opens doors and changes lives. Well, welcome to Women Who Open Doors. I'm super excited to have a special guest with us today. So let me tell you a little bit about her. So Sheri Eubanks is the co-president of Ace Precision, leading the company alongside her sister, Stacey Mack. Ace Precision is an internationally recognized supplier of complex gas turbine engine assemblies, serving major industry players such as Honeywell, Rolls-Royce, Northrop, and Blue Origin. With headquarters in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and an FAA certified repair station in Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin, the company employs 200 people and specializes in advanced manufacturing technologies. For over the past 13 years, she has risen from an entry-level role to co-president, merging her passion for people with her love for manufacturing. That's why I like Sheri so much already. Outside of her work, Sheri enjoys spending time with her husband, Dave, whom she met at Ace Precision, and her 3 children. She is actively involved in her kids' school community and finds joy in outdoor activities, from gardening to caring for her backyard chickens and miniature goats. Again, another topic we're going to have fun with today. So, Sheri, welcome to Women Who Open Doors.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here and look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We have to start with the backyard chickens and miniature goats. So tell us a little bit about the experience. What's been really crazy or fun about having those animals in your backyard?
Yeah, well, all growing up, we had kind of outdoor pets, and I wanted the same sort of experience for my kids to kind of have outdoor chores and responsibilities that way. And so we've raised little baby chicks all the way to the ones that we have, some that we've had for 5 years. So it's been a fun family project, and still have to buy eggs in the grocery store over the winter months until they start laying again in the spring. So we just got the first kind of group of eggs, just this past week. So, but it's been something we've had probably the past 5-6 years and have enjoyed as a family.
Yeah, miniature goats. So I've had some experience at an Airbnb with goats before, which was very intriguing. My husband loves goats. So the goats, like miniature goats, talk a little bit about that because, I only saw them on a little farm once.
No, they're just, they're outdoor pets, keep the mess and stuff outside. And my kids enjoy taking care of them. We raised them from like little babies, got them kind of during that COVID time frame. With good size for kids, and then any little kitchen scraps and things, that's where they head out to the goats. So just been fun pets.
That's fun. Did you name them? Do the goats have names?
Yes, they do. Pickles, Rocky, and Luna. So 2 boys and a girl. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
For each of my kids. Yes.
Yeah, that's super fun. I love that. That's super fun. Okay, we'll get serious here a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit about your career and some interesting milestones that you had. So as we were researching you, like we always do, you passed the Wisconsin bar exam and also worked in employment law, right, for about 3 years before getting into the family business. So can you share a little bit about that journey? Because they're, miles apart in terms of work. So share the pivot moments with us and how that all came to being.
Well, I went to UW-Madison to study operations and human resources, and I worked for a period of time at some larger companies, and I think had always in the back of my mind thought that I wanted to go to law school. If you don't do it now, you probably won't. I was also dating my husband, and I wasn't quite ready to get engaged, so I moved from Wisconsin to Indiana to go to law school for a few years, but really enjoyed it and worked for a period of time, but felt like I was in a litigation sort of role. And that at the end of the day, it was not so much my nature to be in that sort of conflict position. It was more my nature to bring people together and solve problems and provide training and development. So I didn't feel like it was serving me well in that role. But I had grown up in a family business and then realized probably more at that stage the value of what I had experienced all growing up, and that it would be a great opportunity for me to have a conversation with my parents about joining the family business and using the skills I had learned in law school, but asking questions and digging in and looking for solutions, but in a very different way that was a better fit for who I was as a person.
So were you working in the family business while you were going to college too, when you were here at Madison?
So all growing up, ever since I was just 5, 6 years old, had jobs within the family business.
Sure.
And then in college, I would come back over summer breaks. And that's actually how I met my husband, coming back from a college summer working at ACE. But my parents were very intentional about giving us, me and my sister, exposure to a number of different areas in the business, everything from purchasing to accounting to roles on our production manufacturing floor. So I had those experiences all through college. And yeah, it was a great way to learn a variety of different sorts of skills and see how they all have to come together.
So you almost went through what I would term like an entry-level management trainee program, even when you were in college too? Am I understanding that journey right?
Yeah, I think my parents, all growing up, understood that it was important that we learned the value of work, the value of
Mhm.
different people within an organization and the roles that they had, and that you couldn't manage a business without respecting the work that was being performed by each one of your employees. So they gave us great exposure in all areas, whether we were going to end up in the family business or not. It was a great foundation, and I don't think I even fully appreciated how much I learned and how my understanding of how business should be was kind of formed by that experience until I went somewhere else and didn't
Mm.
feel the same way, and was ready to say, no, I'd like to come back. I'd like to be part of Ace Precision as a more permanent choice.
Yeah. Did you think at that time that you wanted the leadership role that you're in today, or was it more just getting back in the business?
I think it was more getting back into the business. Like I'll give an example. My mom and dad worked together in building Ace Precision. And so we would help hand out gifts and name tags at company events. We would wrap holiday gifts. I would go with my mom to help take an employee who didn't have a family member to a doctor's appointment. So my frame of reference of being a good employer was that all growing up.
Mm.
And so it didn't have to be that I needed to be running the place. I just wanted that connection and being part of the team and serving your employees. That was how I was raised. So for me, it was a starting point, knowing I had a lot to learn and I needed to gain the respect of my coworkers. And I didn't have it all figured out. So it would take time. So I didn't have any grand plans. It was probably not until probably 2018 that my sister and I were like, okay, we're both in this, we're doing this together. So what's going to be the path forward?
Yeah. You termed the business, right, as a family-owned business as kind of the third sibling. So it's you and
Yeah.
your sister, and
Yes.
then the third sibling. So
Yeah.
does it go back to that you did everything like together
Mhm.
as a team, as a family team?
Yes. So my parents became owners of Ace Precision in the late 80s. My sister and I were young at that time. And the business was a small tool and die shop. And it was kind of
Mm.
struggling at the time. My dad had experience in aerospace, and my mom had been a dental hygienist. She went back to school to learn finance and accounting to be able to run the business with my dad. And so it was small and it grew, and we knew it was an important part of our family, but it needed a lot of time and attention to be able to grow. So we helped wherever we could. And it's really thrived over the past many years, but not without a lot of dedication and in some ways sacrifice too, because it was a major priority within the family, and we're a pretty small family unit, so just me and
Mhm.
my sister. So,
Where did your dad's entrepreneurial drive come from? Did you ever have a conversation because starting a business, even if you have experience, starting the business obviously is different and owning a business.
I think my dad always had that spirit, but he had lost his job and had two young kids at home and a wife. And it was kind of a life pivoting time where you could take a risk and make a different choice. And that's what they did. So kind of made a risky move, but a move that I think he knew he was capable of. And my mom has wonderful complementary strengths that they could be able to do together. So,
I love that you went back to school for that, right? Like finance, accounting, that's a little
my
different,
mom did. My
right?
mom
Your
did.
mom
Yes,
did. Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
I
With
love
two
that
young
you
girls at home. Yes. So yeah, the finance, the accounting, the people, the execution, all of those things was really um, working side by side with my dad.
Yeah. Talk
Mhm.
to me a little bit about the discussions that you had with your sister. Did you both, become co-president at the same time? How did
Yeah.
that process unfold?
Sure. Well, my sister actually, she's a couple years younger than me. She joined the family business before I did. She has an engineering background. And so we have very different strengths, but very complementary strengths. And I think when you're young, maybe you just see your differences. And then you get to a point where you're like, whoa, no, we can really work well together. We were both in the business and enjoying being kind of that united front, learning from each other, but also knowing that we didn't want to do it all ourselves. So we've had a plan of transition. My hope had been that my dad would have retired, but he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away a year ago last year. So our promotion to co-president was a little bittersweet.
Mhm,
That wasn't part of the plan.
mhm.
That being said, we worked side by side for the past 13 years and had really been performing the daily functions and responsibilities of running the business even prior to my dad getting sick. So there had been a plan, but
Mhm.
our plan had been for my folks to enjoy their retirement, and that
Yeah.
wasn't what happened, but
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your family because you work so hard, right? You work so
Mhm.
hard, especially your dad, I imagine that, it's unfortunate, but he definitely set you guys up in such a beautiful
Yes.
spot because I talk with family-owned businesses quite a bit, and sometimes it's at the last minute. So even though you've lost your dad, you guys did a lot of really great preparations together.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
good. That's good. So tell us a little bit more about the advantages and disadvantages of being part of a family-owned business.
Well, the advantage is, I have great pride in what my parents started and has been created and the people that work here at ACE and our capabilities, and so in terms of being passionate about what I do and feel like I'm making good choices for myself to serve others, serve my own value system. I think that that's a wonderful thing. Definitely a pro. I get to work with my sister. I get to work with my husband, and a lot of people I have a lot of respect for. So those are all great things. The negative, and it's actually why my sister and I are co-presidents, is that it's a lot of responsibility. It's a constant need to manage and to be involved and not take your eye off the ball. And so, by having very different backgrounds, but very common strategic ideas of where we're headed, we're able to kind of share the wealth in terms of responsibilities within the business because we're both moms with families and try to balance not having too many things on our plate and be able to run a successful business. But it's a small community, I think, of family owned businesses, and it's a unique experience. And I appreciated the opportunity to get to know other people in a similar position to be able to relate. It
Yeah, yeah.
can be an oddly like lonely experience. So it's a family business, but just the way you interact with people and relationships can be a little bit different than if you weren't an owner and operator of a business.
Right. Right. Let's talk about the kids then. So you said that your sister has children too. So how are they watching you guys? How do you think they're watching you guys work together? And, are they, is this the third sibling or fourth sibling or the fourth cousin,
Yeah.
right? How are they interpreting, you think, what's happening in the family business?
Well, we're one of the families that we work together and then we spend time together on the weekends and we travel together and we do things together and we just love being together. So right now, I think at our kids' ages, our priority is for them to be building a strong work ethic, understanding having responsibility that's appropriate for their age, and then having exposure to the business where it makes sense. So, like my kids came and helped power wash the patio and to shovel snow on the sidewalk after it had snowed during the work day, help clean the office kitchen and other things. So, what are the little things that they can get involved in? And understand that there is a responsibility, but it's age appropriate because my kids are between 7 and 12 at this point. So I think they know that mom and dad and Aunt Stacey and Grandma Kate, they all work together, and that's important to us. But I don't know that they have a full
Yeah.
understanding of what that means or the responsibility that comes from it. But I
Yeah.
don't know that they need to at this
No,
age.
no.
Yeah.
But they're involved. I think that's all
Mhm.
that really
Yes.
matters
Yeah.
too, right? Like,
Mhm.
they have chores at home, and then they have chores at the office and
They
the
do.
shop,
And they
right?
better take care of those chickens and goats too.
Right. Kinda
Yes.
pile it on there,
Mhm. Yes.
Sherry, kinda pile it on. That's super cool. You know, I've worked in manufacturing, and so as I was exploring more about what you guys do, especially serving the aerospace market, and as you described, your dad having, history in that market, that is a hard market to get into. So to get into and then maintain because of just in your name, right? Like how precise and what really is required from a customer delight standpoint. So walk me through what you guys or what you saw your dad go through and, what you've had to evolve through over your time to really get to this premier space.
And certainly the nature of the industries that we serve, there's a lot of barriers to entry, a lot of certifications, a lot of complex technology and capabilities that are involved. And so the fact that my parents could build that many years ago, it would be challenging to just start that from scratch right now. We continue to add to our capabilities, our certifications, but it's our goal to maintain our high level of quality reputation. So I see, especially with my operations responsibility, that I'm really kind of the gatekeeper of making sure that our standards of performance remain high, that we're not drifting away from that standard, and that sometimes the external noise and pressure that can come from the industry is being buffered by me and my sister as best we can so that individuals can focus on their jobs, do a quality job, and that we can feel confident that the product that we're making is meeting all of our customer requirements and shipping to them as they need. So we see that role as more of like, we've got a great thing going here. Don't mess it up, and
Yeah.
protect your staff from undue stress, burden, and other things that can come from, hey, I want that sooner, faster, or quicker. We're
Mhm.
very responsive to our customer needs, but we also try to limit any unnecessary influence that might make people make decisions that aren't in a quality best interest.
Mhm. You, spoke at the Waukesha County Business Alliance, so a shout out to that group there because 'cause they're instrumental in our community, but you spoke and talked, and the reason why both Jennifer on my team and I were inspired was really what you talked about around your culture. So share a little bit, from your perspective on what's important to your corporate culture and how you keep that moving at your organization.
Well, we know that the bar of expectation is high. We have to be able to, we make a lot of complex assemblies. So we're, I guess, as a little bit of background too, we're very vertically integrated. So we take raw sheet stock or forgings and castings, and we have all the various manufacturing processes in-house to make multiple level assembly, complex assemblies. So we've got to have a lot of things come together and a lot of highly skilled individuals to be able to make that happen. In terms of building our culture, there's a number of different ways we do that, and it's an ever-evolving process, something that we can't lose sight of. But from a hiring standpoint, we're definitely looking for individuals with strong character, work ethic, and approach to valuing the quality of their work. So in many instances, you may not find the most skilled machinist and say that's going to be the best fit if they have bad attitude. Look for someone who, hey, when they are working on a process and they're going to sign their name to say, I worked on that they take pride and ownership in their craftsmanship. Also looking for individuals that are going to be collaborative and open and are willing to raise a red flag if they see something that they think isn't right. So we're probably a little slow to hire. That's in an effort to ensure that we make long-term employment relationships with our staff. So as we invest in them from a training and mentorship perspective, that we can see kind of mutually beneficial gains between employee and the business. For all of our new employees, we match them with a core employee or a mentor to try to fast track their training and development, to get them more used to our work environment, everything from as basic as where's the cafeteria and where's the bathroom to how do we fill out this quality paperwork in addition to the other work instructions that we have. So we really try to build a culture of collaboration, that we're all one team, we're working towards a common goal. And in order to also encourage that, we do a lot of conversation around the application of our product, the pride that we have in the industries that we serve, and that someone's work matters, that we're impacting the general safety of the public, our military, a number of different applications. So you may be doing one small part of a longer process, but it's an important part. And really trying to encourage, especially within our leadership team, hands-on exposure into all areas of the business. So I don't care whether you're part marking parts, washing parts, or doing advanced engineering work, we all pitch in where needed, and we're all part of one team. So if you don't want to be part of the team that way, ACE isn't going to be a good fit.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're slow to hire, but you're also in a challenging, I mean, anyone in manufacturing is a challenging arena. We've been talking about that in manufacturing for 30 years, right? It's hard to find. So how do you, even if you're slow to hire, how do you find good people that match the culture, the quality, the skilled trades that you need? That's a tall order.
It absolutely is. And we certainly have a dedicated human resources team that is doing a lot of sourcing and recruiting and has great connections with local technical colleges, high schools, and all of those typical outlets. But actually about 60% of our new hires come from employee referrals. And to me, that's a wonderful indicator of our culture and the morale of our staff. Because if you're going to say, hey, friends and family, why don't you check out an opening at ACE and come work with me? You must be feeling pretty good about where you're working. And so we do have referral incentives, but we've found that some of our best new hires come from employee referrals.
Mm-hmm. Customers and employees, they get recruited in the best ways if you're doing a good job, right? On both sides of the house. Who's been the mentor for you, or mentors that have really impacted your leadership style, your views on leadership, your views on culture? Who have been the big mentors for you?
Well, I have to say, and I don't know if this is, it has to be my parents. Honestly, it has to be my parents. I watched their approach of being more servant leader focused and seeing their role as employer beyond just that we're making parts and we're shipping parts. And so I think that I didn't understand how good their leadership skills were when I was a young woman. And it took having experiences outside in big companies, in different environments, to realize, no, actually, what's right for me is to be more along the lines of how I've been raised. So they were wonderful mentors that maybe it took a little growing up for me to fully appreciate. I think that's got to be true for most.
That's everybody. That's
But
everybody.
the other thing my mom did, mainly my mom, I think she knew going into an industry that was fairly male dominated, and going into a family business, that I was going to experience things that I wasn't necessarily, it would be hard to prepare someone for. So she found other professional women that I could have lunch with and I could make a connection with. And so, I guess not to name specific names, but women that have led amazing careers, but have also raised wonderful families and done it with such poise and grace, to be able to see that you can be an assertive leader, but still be kind. And that you can have both, you can be both. So I had those experiences growing up, to know that I didn't have to necessarily choose. I could be both, and that those were great mentorship experiences. But I'd also say too that at the time, some of the people that were maybe like really terrible mentors and people that I wouldn't have wanted to
Yeah.
do what they were doing, in hindsight, created opportunities to pivot and make a different decision and follow my own gut. And so they were mentors in hindsight. They were mentors in probably a really good way too, even if it wasn't at the time
Yeah.
what I would
No,
have
I think that's
expected.
really insightful because it is those moments, just like you said, when the
Mhm.
gut says,
No,
that's
not for
not who
me.
I am,
Mhm.
right? That's not who I am. Because you're just, I wish somebody had told me you're just striving to get your point of view as to who
Mhm.
you are,
Yeah.
and as you're young, you're like, I don't know who I am. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it takes a little time,
It
and I think
takes a
it's
little,
probably ever evolving too,
yeah,
but yes, figuring out what's the right fit for you, who's the right what's the right environment for you, it takes time and learning, and not all choices are gonna lead those paths, but they create opportunities to pick a new one, and that's okay.
yeah. I love that's great advice too. That's a piece of advice. Thank you for sharing that because that piece of advice that look in places that you wouldn't necessarily expect, you know. What's the piece of advice that you as you meet with other family owned businesses, business leaders, if somebody says to you, Sherry, what's a good piece of advice to help me get through this time? What's a piece of advice that you share with people often?
Well, and something that for Stacey and I, we have kind of built in is that there's the business, but then there's the family. And if you're not honoring the family and putting the family first, you're not serving the business very well either. And so for Stacey and I, it's been we need to maintain a very strong relationship both in the business and outside the business. We need to be a united front and recognize that there will be individuals who are going to try to pull us apart or pin
Mm,
us against each other. But we always do best when we sit together and we have a conversation. And so don't sacrifice the family for the business. Fix family issues, have conversations, be open about what's on your mind. And then the business part comes along with it. So we've always made sure we were protecting the family, um,
mhm.
as we move forward. So,
Because there's obviously your people, so there's
mhm,
always conflict at some point, but I
yeah.
love what you're saying around just be open to the
Mhm,
communication and honest with the communication and
yeah.
put that first.
Yes. Well, and I think my experience and Stacey, my experience was different where we had progressive responsibilities within the organization. Nothing was going to be like, here, you just get it because you're part of the family. No, you're going to prove yourself and you're going to work real hard. And so then I think there does become a point too where you stop having to like just always be proving that you can do it and more.
Mhm,
No, I've proved myself enough. I've spent almost 15
mhm.
years proving myself. Um, I can handle this, and this is in
Yeah,
a good place. So too, I've heard that from other family business owners is that if they started early in the business, like you've been proving yourself, and when is a time that you can cut yourself a little
yeah,
break and know
yeah.
people respect you because you've rolled up your sleeves and you've shown them
Mhm.
you're capable, and maybe just cut yourself a little slack once in a while.
Because you interviewed for the job, right? That was part of the process?
Yeah, so I was a practicing labor and employment law attorney, and my parents said, "Well, that's great if you'd like to come to ACE, but you can apply online." So I did, and I interviewed, and I started in a development and training role, which really was a little more aligned with kind of my personality of wanting to
Yeah.
train supervisors in particular on soft skills and all the things that help ensure that you have a great leadership team. So that's where I started. But yep, I had to apply online and
I
interview.
love that. I love that they had you test the process, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So you
yeah.
can give feedback on the
Tested it
process.
in, so it was okay.
That's super cool. That's awesome. Well, you have just been a delight. So share with us where people can connect with you or learn more about Ace Precision Machining online, so people can go find you.
So really mainly on our website, which is www.aceprecision.com. We do have a LinkedIn profile and some other social media, but as a manufacturing company, I think we do spend a little bit more time focusing on getting parts done around here than our social media presence. But I do have a LinkedIn profile, and certainly we're hiring and recruiting and making connections. So please check us out.
Awesome, beautiful contribution to the Waukesha County area, and there's some. So thank you so much, Sheri. Really appreciate all your time and insights, and just keeping with us on Women Who Open Doors and sharing your experiences.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on Women Who Open Doors. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we have. Do you know an incredible woman business leader who's opening doors, making an impact, and lifting others up? We'd love to feature her story. Recommend a guest by emailing our producer Hannah at hchurch@not-magic.com. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to help us share these amazing stories. And until next time, keep dreaming big, living boldly, and opening doors for others.